We have not had ID cards in this country for over 70 years. We had them briefly during wartime Britain, but in the end it was decided they weren't doing any good at all and we got rid of them. But they're to come back, but now in a digital form. And of course the high priest for all of this for the last quarter of a century has been Tony Blair. Here he was just recently reiterating the call.
The benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper, and more reliable. It will allow us to judge who has a right to be in our country and who doesn't, and so solves one of the major challenges of immigration.
The benefits are clear. The state can control every single aspect of your life. They can know where you are at any given moment in time. They can see what money goes in and out of your accounts. They can decide, oh, no. You can't go to Marbella. You've used up your carbon credit for the year. Now, you might say I'm exaggerating, but these are the endless possibilities that could happen with digital ID. And frankly, for me, I saw enough during the pandemic with vaccine passports. It created a two-tier society of those who could go to places, those who could travel, all based on the fact that unless you were vaxxed, you see, unless you were vaxxed, you were a danger because you might pass the virus on to somebody else. Then we learnt that simply wasn't true, and yet our freedoms have been taken away for that period of time in a way that had never happened before. I am personally vehemently opposed to this in every single way, let alone the abuse that could happen if any of these sites are hacked and your data is taken. So I am deadly against. We will have a proper debate with our channel on this subject. But hey, we're told it'll stop illegal immigration. It'll stop people crossing the channel. It'll stop people working in the illegal economy. I, for my own side, don't believe a word of it. Love your views. Are you in favour? You at home? You, the viewers, the listeners, let me know. Tweet, hashtag Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I'm going to begin with somebody who I think is going to be on my side, I suspect. Down the line joining me is Silkie Carlo, director of Big Brother Watch. Silkie, we've been expecting this for some time, hadn't we?
Yes, unfortunately, Blair's vision for a dystopian surveillance state where we all carry ID cards and as you say, everything we do can be tracked and logged by the state and controlled, and we need a digital pass to go about our daily lives. This idea is reinvented every few years, and of course Starmer has been very Blairite in his premiership, and now with no mandate whatsoever, nobody voted for this. This was not in the manifesto. He is proposing to introduce it to stop small boats, which, as you said, is absolutely ludicrous. I don't think there's, it's basically an IQ test, the idea that a digital ID will stop rubber dinghies coming across the channel. But what this will do is create the infrastructure of a massive surveillance state that will inevitably sprawl into many areas of life. You would have to be very naive to think that this will stop with citizenship. It will sprawl into benefits, health. Let's not forget that Starmer was in favour of mandatory vaccine IDs, as you said, and also his government has been in favour of identity requirements for the internet and for social media, and there's a war against people being able to go online anonymously. So we could end up with an identity system in Britain that is wholly un-British, that is required for us to do anything from go to the doctors to log on to a Facebook or social media account. And I think it's actually ludicrous that Starmer is apparently going to introduce this in a speech about patriotism. I don't think he understands British values. I just don't think it's in his bones, because this is completely un-British.
But Silkie, look, I'm with you on this debate, but the Labour government have a massive majority. Can it be stopped?
Yeah, it can. And it can by all of us just simply saying no. I honestly think it's that simple. Of course, Big Brother Watch will fight this tooth and nail, and will do that in Parliament. But as you say, the numbers in Parliament make this really difficult, even though it is totally undemocratic. This wasn't in the manifesto. But at the end of the day, when you've got a massive chunk of the population, about half of us, who don't want to have a mandatory digital ID system, you simply can't impose one. And it's going to take millions of us to simply say no.
I know, but when it comes to protests, some do, but it doesn't normally come to the millions. Silky, thank you very much indeed. Well, a couple of views there against. I'm joined in the studio by Sir Michael Ellis, former Conservative Attorney General, and Sean Woodward, former Labour Cabinet Minister. Sean, I think you feel differently on this issue.
Yeah, I do. And first of all, look, I think it's really important we listen to people like Silky and yourself, and I know that you're genuinely concerned about the infringement of our liberty. But, of course, we've already infringed that in so many ways. Anybody who's got a mobile phone, for example, could compromise their liberty. People know where you are. Think about how many passwords you've got on it. Think about how poorly protected you are in terms of the information you give, with pretty poor password protection, that constantly you get those messages on your phone telling you that your data has been linked, your identity has been compromised.
But that's private companies, not government.
It is, and one of the big concerns I've got is that the private companies are not very good at this. In addition, you've got a passport or you've got a driving licence. We've already got many ways out there.
So why do we need more?
Because what we'd actually do now is coordinate it. One of the most important things that we need to do with all of this is coordinate this information. And I think, to be fair to Keir, you can throw it up with him saying, oh, somehow this is going to stop the boats. He's not saying that.
But there he is.
I know. The ID card alone,
no,
it will contribute to helping it. And what Blair said at the Institute speech that he made when Tony was first talking about this was that what matters here is actually making it one of the pull factors at the moment. You think you can get to Britain, you think you can come here, you can somehow cheat the system, cheat the welfare system. You haven't got to prove who you are. You can get a job, you haven't got to prove who you are again. With the ID card, you would have to prove your access for a benefit, for access to the health service.
Hang on, so are you saying that illegal immigrants should be given an ID card?
Well, the illegal immigrants wouldn't be given an ID card.
So how does it stop illegal immigration?
Well, because in order to actually get access to the benefits, you would have to have one. And if you don't get one because you're here illegally, you wouldn't have one.
I can see the arguments that you bring all these different bits of data together. There is an argument for efficiency. Yeah. I understand the rationale and logic of the argument. Blair made it. You've just made it. I get that. But Starmer is selling this, or at least we believe he'll sell it, as a means of stopping illegal working.
I think he's going to sell it as a way of helping do that. I think what we've seen, and I'm sure people at home now are sitting there thinking, is it a good idea or is it a bad idea?
They are.
And quite rightly they should be having that debate. But what we're learning about immigration and illegal migration, we think of what you announced earlier this week, for example, and the problems immediately that appeared with that announcement and actually making it happen. It's not going to be a magic bullet on any one thing. We're going to have to approach this by a whole range of different methods. And I think one of the methods that we're missing in
So this is not the silver bullet?
No, this is not the only bullet that's going to deal with it. I think it could help a lot, and I think it could deter quite a lot of people. But it alone isn't going to do it.
Do you see my concern, though, when I sort of half joked? You try and book a flight to Marbella, but you're told you've used your carbon credit. This could be used in all sorts of ways.
It could be. But I think, as you and I might discuss another time, should reform, for example, form the next government in this country, would it be the first thing that you would repeal as the Prime Minister?
Trouble is,
and I suspect probably not.
There's so much to repeal, I don't know the answer to that.
It's not going to work, Nigel.
It's not going to work. Why is it not going to work?
Look, I'll tell you what. First of all, this is intrusive. It's intrusive on democratic values. Second of all, it isn't going to work. We know why it's intrusive, because eventually, like everything else, there will be mission creep. And this card will be used. It may take 5, 10 years, 15 years, but eventually the card will be used to stop people from doing things that at the moment they have the right to do. That's inevitable, because we see that in everything government does. just encroaching on liberties and mission creep into other areas.
I mean, the state has got bigger and bigger.
Of course it has. Hugely bigger than it was the last time in the 1950s that we had ID cards. But it won't work because, look, I was a barrister in criminal practice for many years. If a person is driving their car and you put 10 speed cameras along the road and that person has to worry about doing 35 miles an hour and a 30-mile-an-hour limit, the law-abiding person is affected by that speed camera.
I know. I agree.
If you've stolen the car,
I agree.
you don't have to worry about getting however many speeding tickets, and you don't have to worry about whether you're insured or not, or dangerous driving, because unless there are enough police around to arrest you, you can do it with impunity. In other words, what I'm saying is, first of all, if Tony Blair thinks it's a good idea, I think most people should assume it's a bad one.
No,
but let me put it to you more logically.
He was a quite successful politician in his day.
He's a very good politician. I don't deny that for a moment.
All right.
But let's put it this way. If you're going to say, is it going to work? It won't work, in my view, because people who want to avoid it will avoid it, and it'll be the law-abiding people who will be affected by it.
I'm going to put that point to Sean Woodward. You know, and the speeding analogy is quite good, isn't it? Because we've got the embankment just outside here. If you're doing 24 at 3 o'clock in the morning, you might get, 3 points or even a ban. But if you nick the car, it's fine. And is there not a danger that things like this that are brought in to make our lives more safer and more logical, actually, it's only the law-abiding who make a minor misdemeanour who pay the price?
Yeah, well, actually, I recently had experience of those cameras. And it wasn't because I was driving over the number. My car was stolen. And I thought, well, the good thing is there are all these cameras everywhere. They'll be able to find my car. Cameras can only be used to catch you for speeding. When it actually comes to trying to find your car, nobody can actually find it for you because, of course, these cameras that have got automatic number plate recognition, as I know from my time as Secretary of State in Northern Ireland, there were lots of concerns about that in Northern Ireland. But the fact of the matter is we use them for some purposes, but not for others, and I wish we actually did use them
because
to catch
legally
people
we
who
can't.
steal cars.
Because legally we can't.
Well, so I'm all in favour of technology. I'm in favour of technology being used in a way that helps us. And I think, look, Michael, I'm listening to you very carefully. If we didn't have any technology out there at the moment capturing your identity, I think your arguments would be very, very good. But we already do. The question is, it's a complete mishmash.
That's part of the problem, Sean, because we already have, law-abiding people already have a passport, a driving licence, a birth certificate, and all the rest of it. So it's already possible to identify law-abiding people. This is going to be another encroachment by the state. I think it is dystopian. I agree with Big Brother Watch. The reality is that this is going to be intrusive on democratic values. Maybe not immediately, but it will be over the course of years because it's inevitable.
But let me ask you that question then. If you were to form the next government, if you were back in Parliament again, would it be top of your agenda to get rid of an identity card that might simplify and save the state a huge amount of money by people being easily able to prove who they are? Would you get rid of it, yes or no?
I would get rid of it. And the reason,
so you would put it at the top
by the
of your
way,
agenda.
I think it would cost the state money because all of these projects
What if it doesn't?
It would cost the state. It would. It would cost the state billions, Sean. You'll have a quango in no time at all that's looking after these cards and the distribution of the cards, the colour of the cards, the cost of the cards. You will have an encroachment by the state. I would get rid of it and spend the money on something else.
I tell you what, folks at home, this debate has only just started, but it's important in a democracy that I give you the view of the leader of His Majesty's opposition, Kemi Badenoch, who says there are arguments for and against digital ID. Well, there you are. Now,